It all started with a message, just 5 little words that detonated like a bomb in the middle of my ordinary Thursday evening. We need to talk. I'm pregnant, that was it. No hello, no context, just that. My phone buzzed while I was sitting at the dining table with Amy, my long-time girlfriend, who was laughing at something she saw on her tablet. I was halfway through my dinner, some cheesy pasta dish she made that I used to love. But the moment I read that message, the food turned to ash in my mouth. At first, I honestly thought it was a scam, or maybe someone messing around. I even let out this weird, nervous laugh like, that's random. But then I looked at the contact name and everything inside me dropped. Maya. I hadn't saved her number, I hadn't talked to her in weeks, but somehow I still remembered her name, the girl from that one drunken, forgettable night. The girl I promised myself I'd never mention, and now here she was, appearing like a ghost at the worst possible time, claiming she was pregnant. My mind spiraled, my stomach clenched. I felt like I was floating outside my body. I looked up at Amy and she was smiling at me, asking if I wanted more garlic bread, and in that moment I swear my heart cracked in half. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to throw my phone across the room and pretend I never saw that message. But instead, I just nodded dumbly and said, sure, more bread sounds great. Inside, though, I was falling apart. The walls were closing in. Every second that ticked by felt like a countdown to disaster. My hands were sweating, my throat was dry. I excused myself, told her I needed to check an email for work. She didn't suspect a thing, that's the worst part. She was so calm, so trusting, so loving, and I was sitting there with a secret that could shatter her world into a million pieces. I locked myself in the bathroom, my hands trembling as I stared at my phone. I opened the message again, hoping maybe I misread it, that maybe she meant something else, but there it was, plain and brutal. We need to talk, I'm pregnant. I took a deep breath and replied, trying to stay calm. Are you sure it's mine? The moment I hit send, I hated myself. It sounded cold, like I was denying responsibility before I even heard her out. But the panic was too loud in my head. I was desperate for some kind of way out, some possibility that this wasn't real. Her reply came almost instantly. I wasn't with anyone else. It's yours. Simple. Direct, no drama, just a brutal truth delivered like a punch to the gut. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, head in my hands, feeling like I was going to throw up. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to rewind time. But none of that was possible. I didn't respond to her after that. I just sat there, paralyzed by the weight of what I'd done. One mistake, one night, one stupid, selfish decision. And now it was catching up to me in the most terrifying way imaginable. I could still hear Amy in the other room, humming to herself, probably planning our weekend or looking up new recipes to try. She had no idea, no clue that everything she thought she knew about me was about to change. And the worst part, I didn't know how to tell her. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't even know who I was in that moment. The guilt was unbearable. The fear was consuming. I felt like a fraud, like a coward hiding behind a dinner table smile while my entire life quietly fell apart in the palm of my hand. That text message didn't just break the silence, it broke the illusion. And I knew from that moment on, nothing was ever going to be the same. Amy and I had been together for almost 4 years. Ours wasn't a whirlwind romance or some dramatic love story filled with passionate chaos. It was calm, comfortable, the kind of relationship people point to and say that's what real love looks like. We met during our last year of college, both working in the campus library. She was that girl who always had highlighters in 5 different colors and a to-do list that she actually followed. I was the opposite, disorganized, always winging it, floating through life without much structure. But somehow we balanced each other. She kept me grounded. I made her laugh. It worked. After graduation, we moved in together and built this cozy little routine, grocery shopping on Sundays, movie nights every Friday. Inside jokes, shared dreams. I loved her. I still do, but somewhere along the line things shifted. Maybe it was the stress of work. Maybe it was just time wearing us down. The excitement faded. The spontaneous dates turned into mindless scrolling on opposite ends of the couch. We stopped talking deeply. Sex became rare. We weren't unhappy exactly, just disconnected, like roommates playing house, and I didn't know how to fix it. I started feeling invisible, not unloved, but unnoticed. I would get a haircut and she wouldn't mention it. I'd bring home her favorite snacks and she'd say thanks without looking up from her laptop. I know it sounds petty, maybe even selfish, but those small things started piling up until I felt like a ghost in my own relationship. And I never brought it up. I didn't want to seem needy or dramatic. I just swallowed it and smiled. Then came that night. My team at work had just wrapped up a major project, and our manager decided to treat us all to drinks. I wasn't planning on staying long. I told Amy I'd be back by 11, but one drink turned into 3, then 4. I hadn't had that kind of night out in a long time. I let loose. I laughed more than I had in months. And then there she was, Maya. She wasn't particularly stunning or extraordinary, but in that moment she was exactly what I craved. She looked at me like I mattered. She touched my arm when I joked. She asked questions. She listened. She smiled in this way that made me feel seen, and I didn't pull away. We danced. The music was loud. The lights were dim. Her body was close. I knew I should have stopped. I knew it even as our lips touched, even as we got into the cab, even as we stumbled into her apartment. But I didn't. It felt like stepping out of my life and into some reckless fantasy where the rules didn't apply. For one night, I wasn't the boring boyfriend or the invisible man. I was wanted, desired, chosen, and I let that feeling guide every bad decision I made. We didn't talk much. There were no deep confessions or romantic illusions. It was physical, raw, selfish, and when I left the next morning, I told myself it never happened. I blocked the guilt. I deleted her number. I went home, kissed Amy on the cheek, and acted like everything was fine. I carried the shame like a secret I'd bury forever. I thought I had escaped the consequences. I convinced myself it was just one night, a mistake I'd never repeat. But mistakes have a way of echoing. In the weeks that followed, I tried to overcompensate. I became more attentive. I cooked dinner. I planned little surprises. I told Amy I loved her more often. I thought if I drowned the guilt with good behavior, it would cancel everything out, but deep down I knew that if the truth ever came out, it would destroy us. I thought I had gotten away with it, that I could move on without ever having to confront what I did. But then Maya's message came, and the illusion I had so carefully constructed came crashing down in seconds. That night wasn't just a drunken mistake anymore. It became a ticking bomb, and I realized the damage I'd done wasn't just to Amy or even to myself. There was a life now, a child, a living consequence of my selfish decision. And there was no undoing it, no escaping it. Everything had changed the moment I stepped into that cab with Maya. I just didn't know it yet. After reading Maya's message and her confirmation that the baby was indeed mine, I just sat there, completely frozen in that cold bathroom. My reflection in the mirror didn't even look like me anymore. My eyes were hollow, my face pale. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to snap out of the spiral my thoughts had fallen into, but nothing helped. The truth was real, sitting in my inbox, breathing down my neck. I'd crossed a line that couldn't be undone. I'd created a life outside of the one I built with Amy, and now everything I had been clinging to was slipping through my fingers. When I walked back into the dining room, Amy was cleaning up the plates, humming softly. She glanced up at me and smiled, completely unaware that the man standing in front of her was harboring a secret that would crush her. I stood there, just watching her for a moment, wondering how I ever let myself get here. How did I let one stupid night threaten the life we had built together? I wanted to tell her right then, get it all out, face the consequences, but I couldn't. My mouth wouldn't move. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I started avoiding Maya's messages. I didn't reply for 2 whole days, hoping if I ignored it long enough, it would somehow disappear. But of course it didn't. She messaged me again, this time more direct. She said she wasn't asking me to run away with her or throw my life into chaos. She just wanted me to know, to be honest with myself and with Amy, and to figure out what role, if any, I intended to play in the child's life. She wasn't being manipulative. She wasn't threatening to expose me. In fact, she was handling it more maturely than I was, and that only made the shame worse. Meanwhile, I was dying inside. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't sleep at night. I kept imagining Amy finding out in the worst possible way. I imagined her face when she'd realized that I had betrayed her trust. I imagined the disappointment in her eyes. I knew I had to tell her, but I kept pushing it. Maybe I was waiting for the right moment, or maybe I was just too much of a coward to face what I had done. Then the moment I had feared finally came. And it came in the simplest, most devastating way. One night, I came home from work to find Amy sitting on the edge of our bed, holding my phone in her hands. She didn't look angry. She didn't look hysterical. She just looked hollow, like someone had vacuumed the life out of her. I had left my phone on the kitchen counter while I went to take a shower. Apparently, Maya had messaged again. Amy saw the notification and clicked it. And just like that, my secret was out. She looked at me and asked if it was true. Her voice didn't tremble. It was low, almost too calm, like she was holding everything inside because if she let it out, it would destroy her. I couldn't lie. I didn't even try. I nodded and told her yes. She stared at the wall for a while, completely silent, and then she hit me with something I wasn't prepared for. She said, "I was going to surprise you." I'm pregnant too. I swear I couldn't breathe. It felt like the room had collapsed in on itself. She was pregnant, Amy. The woman I loved, the one I betrayed, was carrying our child, and I had just destroyed everything with my stupidity. The silence between us stretched on forever. My brain couldn't process it. 2 women, 2 pregnancies, 1 broken man. Amy stood up, walked to the closet, and started packing a bag. She didn't yell. She didn't curse me out or throw anything. She just said she needed space, needed time. She didn't even look me in the eye as she walked out. The sound of the door closing behind her was the most final sound I had ever heard. I sat there on the floor of our room, surrounded by everything we had built, and I cried. Not just for the betrayal or the guilt, but for the life we were supposed to have, for the family that was now divided before it ever had a chance to begin. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to fix anything. All I knew was that I had broken something pure, and I might never be able to put it back together again. The silence in the apartment after Amy left was unbearable. Every corner of our home felt like a haunted space. Her shoes were still by the door, her favorite blanket still thrown across the couch, her coffee mug still in the sink, but she was gone, and with her the warmth, the stability, and the future we had spent years building. I couldn't sleep in our bed that night. I laid on the couch, staring at the ceiling, completely hollow. The weight of everything hit me over and over again like waves crashing without pause. I had done this. I had caused all of it. One night of weakness had led to a storm I could no longer control. The next morning, the first message I saw on my phone was from Maya. She wasn't aggressive or emotional. She simply asked if I had told Amy yet and how it went. I didn't even know how to reply. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back that yes, I told her, and she left. Maya responded saying she was sorry it happened that way, but also that she was glad the truth was finally out. She reminded me again that she wasn't trying to disrupt my life, but that this baby was real and decisions would need to be made soon. I didn't respond after that, not because I was ignoring her, but because I didn't have any answers. I couldn't even begin to think about fatherhood when my entire identity had crumbled overnight. I wasn't a boyfriend anymore. I wasn't a partner. I wasn't even sure I was a decent human being. The thought of raising a child with a woman I barely knew terrified me. Not because of her, but because of me. How could I be a father when I couldn't even be faithful for one night? Days passed, then a week. Amy didn't call. She didn't text. Her social media went completely dark. I kept checking, hoping for a sign that maybe she was okay, that maybe she was coming back. But all I got was silence, and in that silence I started to realize something. This wasn't going to be fixed with apologies. There was no version of this where everything just returned to normal. What I did wasn't just a mistake. It was a wound, a deep, life-changing cut that bled into every part of our future. And now, that future looked nothing like I had imagined. Eventually, I met up with Maya. She was about 3 months along at that point. We met in a quiet cafe, and the moment I saw her, I was flooded with so many emotions I didn't know how to process. She looked tired, but composed. She told me she was keeping the baby regardless of what I chose to do. She had support from her family, and she had started looking into prenatal care. She said she wasn't going to chase me down or force me to be involved, but if I wanted to be part of the child's life, she wouldn't stop me either. That conversation shook me. For the first time, it wasn't about the affair or the guilt or Amy. It was about the life that was coming whether I was ready or not. I told Meyer I wasn't sure what kind of father I could be, but I wasn't going to walk away from the responsibility. I said I wanted to try to figure things out, to be present in some way. She nodded, and there was a brief moment of peace between us. Complicated, messy piece. But peace nonetheless. As for Amy, I still haven't seen her. It's been weeks now. I sent her a message telling her I was here when she was ready to talk, that I wasn't expecting forgiveness, but I wanted to be part of our baby's life if she would allow it. She didn't respond, and I don't blame her. She's processing something I can't even begin to imagine. I broke her heart, and now she has to carry a child knowing the person who promised her loyalty betrayed her in the most personal way. So here I am. One man, two unborn children, and a future that looks nothing like the one I envisioned. Every day I live with the weight of what I did. Every morning I wake up to the consequences. I don't know what kind of father I'll be. I don't know if Amy will ever speak to me again, but I know this. I can't run from it. I have to show up. I have to try, because these children didn't ask for any of this. And if there's even a small chance I can become the kind of man they deserve, then I have to start now. Even if it means starting completely alone.